All right, social media. So we touched on this. We even had a few questions last week where we dove a little bit deeper. Social media. This is changing the way all of us interface on a day-to-day basis. There's no doubt about that. I'm going to break down for you really the most common from a business nonprofit standpoint social media sites that are used. And again, these are important for not only the bots, the search engine bots, but also critical for you to drive people to your website. So that off page, it's using social media to drive your target market and compel them to act, attract and act. So what are some reasons to engage with social media? It humanizes you. It humanizes your brand. We talked last week about brand personality and where brand personality can live. It absolutely can live in social media. One of the first, really, it's one of the only mediums where it allows for a two-way communication and conversation with your customer. Think about at home at night, you're watching TV and you're browsing on your tablet. All you have is promotions and advertising coming at you, commercials coming at you, product placements coming at you, searching a website. Any type of promotion you're looking for, they're coming at you. Social media is one of the only mediums that allows you to have a conversation with your customer. How cool is that? You can ask them questions and they can respond. That's fantastic, not just for feed viewing, meaning that you come up on a feed more often, but also just to allow for that conversation. It's no or low cost. It's really your time and investment. And, low cost from a standpoint of advertising. We talked last week about getting really specific with your target market and your psychographics and how the digital space really does allow for a lot of flexibility here. This is where. So we ran a campaign for one of our clients. Elaine in the back knows who they are, I'm sure. But this was a local jeweler in Duluth, Minnesota, and they had $600 for a campaign, for a budget for advertising around Valentine's Day. They said, got $600, it's the 1st of February, we want to see some results by Valentine's Day. Well, with traditional advertising, $600 might buy you a couple spots in prime time, maybe. A billboard for not very long, in a not a great place for viewers. So we allocated that budget for a social media campaign on Facebook. And we targeted 25-mile radius from Duluth, Superior, age 25 to 60 or 80, high jewelry, again, you're talking about a rather large age spectrum. And can anybody guess how many impressions in 13 days our client received? Impressions meaning how many times it came up on a Facebook feed? Guess. Anybody? Thousands. 3.4 million in 13 days. Meaning it showed up on feeds for 3.4 million times in the course of 13 days. And those impressions generated 407 click-throughs to their website. So people saw the ad and clicked through to their website 407 times. That was an enormous opportunity. And so the generation of sales and sales acceleration that a Facebook campaign can do for a limited investment is really powerful. So you have the ability to run those campaigns. They're very easy to run by yourself. If that's something that you have a budget for, they walk you through how to do that pretty specifically. So I just share that because it is really a low-cost option for advertising. We know that it is a lead generation tool. I just gave you one example of that. And it also is really easy to track and measure. So all of those measurements are right at your fingertips, just a quick login. So those are reasons why social media is really instrumental for an organization. Now, here, I'm going to talk about these sites a little bit here. We're going to touch on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Google Plus I put up here, but I am not going to dive into that too much today. I'm really going to focus on the three most common in the business and nonprofit community, which are Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Google Plus is important. It's owned by Google. So when you think about a primary search engine user that's using Google, it does absolutely help from a credibility standpoint. They kind of had a rough start, so they don't have nearly as many engagements as the other social media sites do. And so I'm going to share with you a little more information about Facebook. So today, more than 1 billion users worldwide. We are talking about users spend 4 times more time on Facebook than they do Google. Remember I said that I use Google probably 37 times in a day? I am not one of the people that uses Facebook 4 times more, but there certainly are people that are on Facebook whenever they have an opportunity to take a break or have some downtime. We know that the click-through rate, especially for the business-to-consumer market, so for a retail segment or for any consumer-driven product or service, their click-through rate has grown to 375% since 2012. So some of those numbers seem unbelievable, right? I mean, my 3.4 million seems a little unbelievable. These are facts that we generated from our partner, HubSpot, that collects information from Salesforce and from various market data. So we know that it is absolutely happening. Facebook, smartphone users check Facebook on average 14 times a day. I think I'm actually guilty of that sometimes. Just depends on my day. I'll just check it real quick, see if I have a message. Anybody else? Maybe? Nobody wants to raise their hand. But, and this is not just young people. We know that the demo is changing. More and more 30-plus-year-olds are joining Facebook daily. The Gen Y generation and the millennial generation, they're checking Instagram and Snapchat more than this, right? They live there. So just thinking about Facebook for your business and the target demo, it generally is 30 and older. So here's some best practices. Be engaging. We talk about it in our office as social media really is first date engagement. So be on your best behavior, look your best, talk your best. Just really putting your best foot forward to engage with your client or your potential consumer. It's where your personality should live, so let it shine. Post daily. Now, possibly even 5 to 10 times a day if you've got a big event going on and you're saying, oh my gosh, I don't want to get bombarded with Facebook messages. I'm not going to do that. The algorithms are changing constantly with Facebook. They're always trying to figure out ways to get you to use them more and not annoy people. So there are changes going on in the feed. So if you post an event or a post, chances are it will only come up in 16% of your friends' feeds. So if you post 5 times, then essentially you're going to hit all of your friends. So that's just some of the newest information. Post photos and videos, and we talked last week about making sure that they're consistent with your brand. Here's selfies and having some fun, especially if it's appropriate with your target market. Have some fun with it. Have some post videos, post short video or short vignettes that maybe do a quick walkthrough of your office. Show your personality there. Respond to comments and photos. So again, having that conversation with your customer. If somebody asks you a question, answer them. If they post a negative reply, answer them that you would like an opportunity to connect on the phone or an opportunity to clarify any misconception. So having that conversation is important. Run contests. I mean, hello, the ALS challenge, really? The Ice Bucket Challenge? You know how much that's generated for ALS? Not even just looking at donations, but awareness? More than 100 million. That went viral. That was really a powerful example of how a social media contest can change the way an organization runs. Ask questions. So if you ask a question and somebody responds to it, every time somebody responds to it, it comes up in people's feeds again. The more people respond, the more Facebook says, ooh, people like this post. I'm going to keep showing it. You might see that with somebody that likes you get a lot of likes on a picture. It'll keep coming up in feeds. So asking questions is a good way to engage people and can continue to keep your post high in a feed. Making it personal and using keywords, again, very important. Always thinking about those standards of first date. Any questions about Facebook? Okay, we're going to move on to Twitter. Twitter is just not as popular as Facebook, but absolutely one of the most used from a business standpoint social media outlets. If you don't like Facebook, you probably really aren't going to like Twitter because you have to really, in some cases, be on it more. We know about 100 million people use it daily. So that shows you that there are a fair number of people out there that have Twitter accounts but necessarily aren't using them daily. So those daily Twitter users are pretty dedicated. 86% of people are using it on a mobile device. So they're scrolling. I spent some time at the Capitol and in communities where you rely on a lot of information in a closed network, Twitter is a very powerful source. So, for example, it was really how we knew what rooms to be in for hearings, what a vote might be on the floor, what media coverage was. What some of the media folks were looking for. So it is, Twitter is a great closed network communication, but it's also fantastic for just for thought leadership and understanding what your competition is doing in the market. 31% are 18 to 29-year-olds, and so this demo is a little bit younger than Facebook. To your question a little bit earlier. So generally speaking, the younger demo lives on Twitter. Some best practices. With Twitter, you're bound to 140 characters. So thinking about, you have a shorter amount of time to convey what it is that you want to convey. So it needs to spark interest, needs to be engaging. Short tweets, we know, are tweeted more often, and they're easier to just browse through and pay attention to. The thing that's a little different about Twitter versus Facebook is the real-time component of Twitter. So if you're going to live here, spend some time on it, it's important that it's real-time and relevant. It's not like Facebook where maybe, posting vacation pictures from last week or posting an event that's going to happen or did happen. I mean, this is all about the now. So making it real time is certainly important. You want to tweet often. So again, 3 to 5 times a day. You want to retweet and retweet relevant information regarding your business. So that is a real opportunity for you to generate followers, is to retweet other people's content. So if you have a thought leader that you follow, if you are, one of the strategies that we talked about last week is building media relations with your local press. You can get to know them by retweeting their story that might be relevant to you. You can really get a sense of engagement pretty quickly with people if you use Twitter appropriately. You can tweet at people, and you can quote people. So there are a fair number of tools that you can use to really be strategic about the content that you're putting out and requesting back from people. I suggest to follow companies similar to yours. So for those of you in manufacturing, maybe following your like manufacturing companies, look at how they're conveying information. How often are they tweeting? What are they saying? Who are they linking to? It's not a faux pas to follow your competition. Chances are they're following you, or they have somebody that is. So I would strongly suggest that you follow your competition and follow those that follow you. And this is interesting as you see some people have millions of followers, and this is really what works best for your business and for your level of comfort too. I mean, I think it certainly helps build a larger network if you're following those people that follow you. You can click on the person and find a little bit of information about them if you don't know who they are. So those are really some best practices with respect to Twitter. And really, Twitter is about amplification. So how can you amplify your voice through tweeting and through retweeting? Any questions about Twitter before I move on to LinkedIn? Okay, great. So LinkedIn the dynamic of LinkedIn has really shifted. So several years ago, it was really more of an online sort of database for networking and trying to find a job. So people would put in almost a resume in a lot of respects and use it as a database or a repository for what you're doing and what you've done. Today, it's changed. How many of you actually have LinkedIn? Okay, yeah. How many of you are real active with it? Okay, just a couple of you. It is it's becoming a more effective tool in the business-to-business space. There's more than 300 million members worldwide. 2 people per second are joining, so that number is changing very rapidly. It is the most popular network, social network for professionals. And because of the reason that I mentioned about more of that repository for your resume or your career experience, it's often misunderstood or overlooked as a true networking site. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some personal and professional best practices. And please feel free to ask questions along the way. So personalized, you can still absolutely use it to further your career. This is my business partner here. Isn't she cute? You can customize your public profile for viewing beyond just simply having a resume. Becomes a personal badge that you can use. This link here down at the bottom, linkedin.com/in/Pasha Apter. She can actually use that and attach it as a signature in her emails or attach it as a signature on blogs. Use that link so people go directly to her. Use it as more of a badge or a call to action. It's a place where you're not only able to display your work history now, but you can actually display your work. So if you're an artist, you can display images of your work. You can display your blogs. You can display any of the media that you have on LinkedIn today. Or you can now display it within LinkedIn. That's relatively new, especially maybe to those of you that aren't using it as much. From a business standpoint, you can actually create showcase pages. And for products or for solutions or for topics and content, you can create buzz that's really segmented to, again, those target audiences. So Involta, again, is a great example of this. Their primary target audience is CIOs and IT managers. Generally speaking, pretty tough people to find at a Chamber of Commerce networking event or at a BNI group, right? You might find them at a trade show, but chances are they are going to be difficult to talk to. So these networking, these showcase groups really do allow you an opportunity to start a conversation with people that are following your company. And I guarantee you that if you ask people to follow you on LinkedIn, then they're in your target market, they're going to follow you, especially if you have if you're displaying some relevant content. So you can also post targeted status updates for your company and create your own industry group. You can email and have conversations with them very specifically to whatever it is, if it's an event or a conversation about a topic. Those are things that you can do within that industry group. I belong to several of those. Now, they're not used as much as they probably could be, but I certainly belong to them and engage when there's something appropriate for me. So with LinkedIn, many of the features and benefits are available at no cost, or you can upgrade to additional professional packages. So those are really just up to you in terms of what your budget is and what your time commitment is. And so just to sort of close on some of our social media best practices, really just thinking about our giant G's to social media, being genuine, being generous and grateful, first date behavior. Don't be greedy, don't grandstand or try to grab. As I mentioned, with respect to advertising, we are constantly bombarded with product placement and people talking to us. You have the ability to have that conversation without pushing your product all the time. So thinking about how you can do that in a gracious and genuine way is really a great platform for you to gain additional followers and tweeters and LinkedIn connections. So how do you manage all that? We're busy people. We are busy people, all of us in this room. If I told you to carve out an hour just for social media, I don't know how many of you have that time in a day right now, or you could just say, okay, you're lucky. You should start a business on doing this for other people. But there's really, carving out a big chunk of time is not efficient for a lot of people. But the nice thing is there are a lot of tools out there today that you can load and schedule posts in, and these are just a few of them. We use Hootsuite, and we also have that ability on the back end of our marketing automation platform. So what those tools do allow you to do is go in, you sign up. Hootsuite, there is no cost for one person. It jumps up if you add other people that are managing it. But you schedule a post, grand opening event on Main Street, address, this time, come hungry. And you schedule that, and it goes out through all of your social media channels. So you don't have to go into Facebook, you don't have to go into Twitter, you don't have to go into LinkedIn. It just does that for you. And it puts it in a nice, condensed, little tiny link. So when you tweet, if you're copying a link and you tweet it, it doesn't mess up your character count. So it packages, these tools oftentimes help you package up links and content into a much more efficient display for all of your social media posts. So these are a few of them. So just to touch on quickly, social media best practices. This is not different than what we've been talking about since last week. Strategize, plan ahead, make sure that you are being diligent with the time and the content that you're putting out. You're not just putting it out for content's sake. You're going to set goals. We talked about those, your ambitions. How many times do you want to post a day? How much content do you want to display? And actually, we're going to go through a little planner that will help you figure that out as you take this back to your offices. Assigning responsibility, so you can have other people access your Hootsuite or help you manage your social media. If you don't personally have the time, I understand, that might be a payroll issue or a time for training people, but I'll tell you what, don't underestimate interns. These days, you guys have college students right here in your community. Those are great ways and those interns oftentimes live in this social media land all day long, so they love it. They're really good at it. They can teach all of us a thing or two. Engage with your audience. We talked about that. Listen, monitor comments, ask questions. Pay attention to your analytics that you're receiving, whether it's from a Facebook campaign or from any of the other analytics on a business page. You can generally see how many people have viewed your site each week. Get to know your audience and speak to them like they like to be spoken to, and really have fun. So again, thinking about that first date. So before I touch on some of the other digital strategies, we do have a social media planner as our one of the other tools that you're going home with today. And this is the second to last page in your packet. And so what, really looking back to, as I mentioned, setting your goals, be thinking about what overall ambition this works toward, speaking to your target market, and what type of brand personality you might have, and then whatever month or time frame it is that you are going to use this. Now you can use it as a checklist, meaning we're going to just post once per day. Maybe you want to set a plan where you're going to post in Twitter 3 times a day or 5 times a day, but just being thoughtful about what, when and what. So again, strategizing. There's a couple topic idea areas over here that you can fill in. If you have an author, if you have a certain person who's responsible for an event or for a product launch, those people might be helpful in coming up with the content. And then the results. So just looking at how much traffic did this generate, if it ties back to your website analytics, how many new followers did we get this week because of the activity that we have. So really talking about what that means for you. So you can schedule that out for a month. And then on the back, this is really more of just to help you brainstorm. So we had this with some of our other exercises. So industry trends. What are some industry trends that are affecting your business? And what are some of those that you might want to follow? So healthcare, obvious, right? Ebola. I mean, we're going to want to look at what the CDC is doing and look at what HCMC is doing, and just looking at maybe some of those trends as they impact your business. Keywords. This is probably just transferring right over from your SEO checklist. So those same keywords are words that you want to use when you're talking about your products or services. So we're talking about a very consistent pull-through strategy. Influencers. So if you are running a campaign and thinking back to my example, moms oftentimes are planning vacations from last week. If we're going to be posting about vacations, maybe we're going to run an advertising campaign and we're going to aim it at women between the ages of 35 and 55. So just, again, getting you to think about how your product or service resonates in the marketplace and who influences those decisions. And then your competitors, jot them down, follow them, find them, see what they're doing. What are they doing that you like? Brainstorm some notes there. So that should give you a real sense of how you can put social media in action right away. And so just to wrap up our content for today, I did just want to talk a little bit about digital advertising and what's out there, and how, if you have the budget, you may be interested in taking advantage of it. Or just to give you a sense of what's happening in the marketplace. So traditional digital advertising, we talked a little bit about this last week, seeing some of those banner ads pop up and watching how those banner ads may follow you. There's really a few different digital marketing or digital targeting strategies that are being deployed in today's marketplace. They're using behavioral targeting. They are using behavioral targeting to really execute site and search retargeting. And email campaigns are another form of digital. And so from a behavioral standpoint, really looking back again at that demo, geographic, psycho, how in context, that really is behavioral targeting. So it's used by online publishers and advertisers to increase the effectiveness of their campaigns through information that's collected on an individual's web browsing behavior in order to select which advertising to display to that individual. And I'm going to show you an example of that. Now, you probably can't read it way in the back, but this is what happens, and I would imagine all of us in the room have had this happen to us. When you visit a website, there's a tiny tracking cookie that goes on, jumps on to your search and literally just watches what you're doing online. And they develop a profile of you. The cookie helps develop this profile of you and your behavior. So if you're shopping for parenting advice, if you're looking for books online or yoga classes, what it will do then is the information that's gathered is oftentimes sold directly to advertisers, or they're offered up as an exchange. And so that behavior that you have is now a profile in somebody's database, right? And that can, when it's sold, websites can oftentimes target you directly based on your behavior, which is a little creepy. We've all seen it, but it absolutely happens. And so there's some examples of, another example of that is search retargeting. And this is where a target user is, based on their keyword searches, they are targeted by search engines such as Google, Yahoo, and Bing. They're based on, again, those keyword searches, and I'm going to walk through an example of that. So here a user searches a relevant keyword for a product or a service they're interested in. So let's talk about a sweater. I'm looking for a cream cardigan sweater. I'm just going to do a general search of it. The user then sees different ads for clothing, for example, while you're surfing the web later. So that is search retargeting. So I'm just doing a search for clothing, generally. They know some of my behavior. They purchased it. And then when those are aligned, I will see an ad for the Gap or for the Loft. And then once you search retargeting is nice because for those of you that might be looking for a cardigan, you might find one online that you wouldn't have maybe necessarily known about, right? So that is search retargeting. Site retargeting happens a little bit deeper in the funnel. So these are people that have done a little bit more research on a particular topic or product, and they probably have already visited the Gap, okay? So in this particular case, you've got me in the middle. That's not really me. It looks more like my partner. Surfing the web, and they're going to browse the Gap. Here's an example of the Gap. And they're going to pop over and look at some other sites. But every time I come back to a different site, I might be on CNN, I will see a Gap ad pop back up. And then what they want you to do is click back to their website. Now, these are fantastic tactics to deploy in, again, the retail space because it's business to consumer. They're going to want you to buy. You see that probably with, I'm looking for a new vehicle right now, so I get that for vehicles all the time. So this is definitely a mode that's being deployed in higher end retail, and the information to this access to this information is not at everybody's fingertips. It's not even at a firm like mine, all of our fingertips, right? We partner with some folks to do this. So, but just knowing that this is available and is out there is something that I wanted to share with you. And I also wanted to just share quickly some email campaign best practices. So when you think about, we talked a little bit about email campaigns last week. And we talked about why they are important. And it's driving people, generally speaking, to your website or to an offer within your email. You oftentimes are using tools within your business, an iContact database or Constant Contact is another, HubSpot is another. But you're using a list of existing contacts to send out information. What's really important about email campaigns and best practices for email campaigns is an understanding that your list needs to be valid. You need to have a strong list that the contact information needs to be right. It needs to be segmented. If you are going to be doing cross-selling to your email list, you want to have them identified by product that they're currently buying. So list management is oftentimes an afterthought with this particular type of strategy, but it is one that you should really pay attention to. When you send a campaign, you should actually send it from a real person. So if I'm sending a campaign from Involta, I don't send it from Involta data centers, right? I send it from whoever the particular salesperson is in that particular market. And you should do the same. And any of these types of programs, whether it's iContact, Constant Contact, HubSpot, they all have great tools for this, very easy. Like with a blog, compelling subject line, brief content, calls to action are all important. The nice thing is you can analyze your responses and you can actually analyze and measure your campaigns just as effectively as we did with Google Analytics. Through any of those platforms, this actually just happens to be an example of a HubSpot tracker. But you can see, whether you can show how many were sent, how many were delivered. So for some reason, there were bad emails. It tells you which ones were bad down here. Tells you how many were opened. And it tells you then how many people click through. So the analytics are great. You can decide whether an email campaign worked for you pretty quickly. Last week, we talked a little bit about open rates. And the industry average in moving somebody who doesn't necessarily know who you are, so a stranger, to a lead, best practice is about 1 to 2% in the industry. We strive for 5% with our clients. That's not a lot, right? That's 2 or 4 visitors from that campaign. So when you see that 32 clicked through, it was relevant content that we knew that they wanted to download. Does that make sense? So those are just some different ways that you can actually analyze the email campaign that you may or may not run. And then here's just another example. So from that email campaign, how many people hopped off and went to their website. So what's really beautiful in the world that I live in today is we can work with clients and actually take them from a digital media Facebook campaign and pull them through and show that we know that that visitor bought their actual product or service. So we can show when we work with the clients that full scale from advertising to the purchase, and you can do that too for your business relatively effectively and relatively efficiently, and sometimes with little budget. So that's really, from the takeaway today, I want to, just step back and we're going to talk about, we've already identified our ambition. You've conducted your research. You know which best strategies that you have in front of you based on your business that will elicit action from your target market. Making sure that you optimize that content and creative. So when you're advertising to them, they're coming back to your website and it's relevant to them so that you can then deliver to your customer and you've got great, happy customers. And so, with that, just reminding you that all components of the marketing wheel are important. I can't get you out of here without showing that one more time, right? And it's really just leaving you with, marketing is no longer about the stuff that you make, it's about the stories you tell. And this is from Seth Godin, who is one of the thought leaders in the marketplace in our space. It is about your narratives. It's about building to those. And so I'm happy to walk around and spend a little time with you now that we're running up against our time. I went a little right up to the edge, but wanted to make sure that we covered everything. Again, this is session 5 from our Successful Marketing course. I have some more detail in the packet for you. If you'd like information, whether or not a Giant Academy would be a good fit for you, I'm happy to talk with you afterwards or schedule a call. But really appreciate the opportunity to share all of this information with you. I know it's a lot. My goal was not to leave you overwhelmed, but to leave you with some real tools that you can use. I will also send out these so you can download them and use the tools. They're all in a Word document format. And I have an SEO template and a social media planner for beginners workbook that you'll receive as well. It was just a lot of paper to send you home with today. So thanks again, and really appreciate your time.